Yes, you are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports is Ordered. And I tell you what, down here in San Antonio, 55 degrees. But all you coaches out there, them seats are on about 240. We're going to talk about Frank Reich. We're going to talk about, unfortunately, who's next. And that's across all sports.
It's inevitable.
We're going to react to the college football rankings where I ask the same question that I always ask. Why is Washington not number 1 or number 2? But that's just me. I am here, and I am not alone because I have the one and only Mr. Logical.
Your Jersey, we in the building. DA stand up. Shout out to Utah. Shout out to Texas where I was born. Shout out to Texas where Mike is right now. Shout out to sports. Give me a great entertainment for 2023. Shout out to everybody that just keeps watching and listening, downloading. I think I probably talked to like 6 or 7 people directly this week because I had it playing in my office. So we got some more fans. I'm with it. Sharing it. Like I said, like, share, subscribe, share with your grandma.
Everywhere
Spotify,
you get your podcast.
Everywhere you get your podcast, Apple, your iPhone, you want it. It's already on your phone. You have to download it. All you got to do is typing it in. Sports Reports is Ordered.
Yo, you know what I always wanted to do? I be getting so mad. Like, I just want to, like, one time just be like, welcome to the...
Stephen A. Smith?
No, the herd. Welcome to the herd.
Yo, for him to do that show almost by himself, I think about it all the time. It's like, he has, like, he has Jason McIntyre. He had, I forgot what her name was. He had Joy Taylor.
Then
he had the other one, Krista. I forgot her name.
Kristen Leahy.
Yeah, Kristen Leahy. Mm-hmm. But he does it pretty much by himself. But it also does put him in a position where he just says outlandish stuff and no one checks him on it.
Yeah, he has to. He has to just to fill the time.
And then I sent you that 23-minute video of him just being completely wrong.
Yeah.
And even in the moment, he's like, okay, you get it sometimes. A couple of things he was saying when he was like, we're good, LeBron. Ben Simmons is here. He said that out loud, like with his chest.
Mama ain't even say that.
He said it with his chest out. I mean, he said it with conviction. Like this British podcast I watched, he said it with chest. With chest. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was pretty funny. Oh
man. But yo, a lot going on in the sports world. Mr. Logical said it was so much going on, he couldn't even think of anything to get off his chest. Nah. So I got 2 quick ones for you. Promise they be quick.
I got a positive one, and we're going to let him kill it real quick.
All right, so first and foremost. Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to do mine first. So
go ahead. Go ahead.
And then we'll get into the typical sports banter.
Go ahead.
Like I said, last week, I said I was doing announcements for the Northern Burlington Junior Greyhounds. We have 4 teams in the playoffs. We had 3 teams make the championship round, which is this weekend, which is a big deal because there's only about 10 organizations on our league, 10 to 12. So for 4 championship rounds, 4 championship levels, 90 pounds, or like there's 7 and 8 year olds, 105s, 120s, 145s. Those are the 4 teams. We have 3. So we got the 90-pound team going to the championship, 105-pound team going to the championship. They won last year's a group of 90-pounders. So most of them are playing again. And then the 120s, thrilling games. I called them all. It was great. So once again, I want to congratulate all the young men and the young women who are cheering them on. Obviously, the parents and the organization itself. But I want to cheer on the young men. Wish them luck this weekend in New Egypt. 90s, 120s, 105s. Go ahead and get us some trophies. We like having trophies. We get 1 or 2 every year. It surprises people because we come out there with this team and it's like sometimes we're undersized. We're not a big fast team, but we have a great like combination of like these blue collar farm kids.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got some speedy kids, and then the association with the military base over right here. We get some kids that are from out of state. We just have like a great group. The board, shout out to Mike Vassell, Lydia Norway, uh, Terry White, the Yellow Garaji. Who else? Who else? Just everybody on the board that really puts a lot of effort into making this work because it takes a lot. You know, we fill our stands up every single game. I looked across the field last week. The 90-pound team, man, you know, 12 or 13 kids from the other team. It's probably like 25 people in the stands. It's like that, maybe 25 people. Like our stands are packed. We travel. We really support the team. So it's a testament to what the league puts into the players and what the players put out. It just is it's a great league. I'm really proud to be a part of the league. And once again, good luck this weekend, fellas. We're cheering you on. 3 teams out of 4 teams in the championship round. You can't beat it.
That's what's up. Congrats, guys. Yeah. You know, as you get to know Sports Reports is Ordered, you will learn that my wife refers to me as the Grinch. But I have it on good authority that I am not the Grinch. The Grinch has been revealed to be Ron Rivera. Because I was enjoying my Thanksgiving. You know, my boy came in from DC. We went up to Jerry World to see the magnificent splendor that it is. You know, we walk into the stadium. I'm expecting all these hostile Cowboy fans, and everybody, I think, just felt pity. You know, like when I wanted, I was trying to talk all the trash. I'm like, this is a takeover. And they were just like, y'all Redskin fans, you know, that's what they said. Y'all Redskin fans are funny, you know. And then I said, come on, man. Like, you know, so we get to the game, you know, we're sitting there, we're excited. National anthem plays, Thunderstruck plays. I'm in my mood. I get up, you know, and then that was about it, you know. You know, so Jack Del Rio is gone. Defensive back coach is gone. But as we all know, you have to cut the head of the snake.
Yeah.
The head of that snake is Ron Rivera. So as long as he is employed by this team, this is what it will look like. You know, last defense in the league with the number 1 quarterback in the league as far as passing yards go. So everything that everybody says about Justin Herbert, just apply that to Sam Howell.
Yeah.
You know, so Thanksgiving was ruined. And I don't think Christmas is going to be any better. But anyway, you know, the other thing that I wanted to get off my chest, Mr. Jonathan Smith, who I have defended. I told y'all last week, I got into the argument with my Oregon fans at work, and I told them that I thought Jonathan Smith was either the best coach in the Pac-12 or the second best after Kyle Whittingham over in Utah. So what does he do? Now, this is the question that I want to ask Mr. Logical. I know this is getting off my chest, but I'm going to ask Mr. Logical a question. Why, when these coaches decide to take another job, why do they half-ass their way out the door?
I mean, can your head be in 2 places at once?
I don't know.
It's like if you know you're going to leave a relationship, do you really put that much effort in the last dinner date? Or you just go to Waffle House and get some food and call it good? Because you know you're moving out in the morning. It's Friday. You know your boys coming over to help you pack Saturday. Like what? Like this is the last hurrah. The last hurrah gets minimal energy.
You know what? I'm glad you answered that question that way. Because what you just said would make 100% complete sense if Jonathan Smith was from, say, he graduated from Virginia and was coaching out at Oregon State. But no, he went to Oregon State. He's coaching against Oregon. Like, so you would think, at least I would think, as a competitor, like I would think that I want to walk out the door with the positivity of knocking my rival out of the playoff race.
True.
Because when these kids sit out, we say they don't care. When they leave and get into the portal, we bang on them and say they can't handle adversity and they want to take the easy way out. You know, this is a leader of men who had their rival at their rival's place with a chance to knock them out the whole playoff race. You came out, you lost 31-7, 24 rushes for 53 yards, and for some reason you let DJ Uyangale throw it 35 times. You know, the next morning we wake up, because at the time I was just like, damn, man, maybe Oregon is for real. Then I woke up the next morning, they said, oh, Jonathan Smith, new coach at Michigan State. And I said, well, damn, Oregon still ain't shit.
And this was Sunday morning?
No, but Saturday morning. It was the day after. You know,
when do you think Michigan State extended the offer?
Oh, I'm sure Michigan State extended that offer like Monday, that previous Monday.
So you go to the ADs at Oregon State and you say, hey, this boy, my DMs think I'm pretty. And they're like, cool, go with it. All right, bet.
Now, I understand
and then he coaches the game, Friday night. He's like, it is what it is. It sucks. You would expect someone to put their whole heart in it. But if you go to them and say, hey, this other school wants to take me, and they act like they don't care if you're leaving, it's kind of hard to ramp back up.
Well, in this particular situation, I don't think he would have gave them that choice because remember, Pac-12 is done after this season. You know, so what does Oregon State's future hold right now? So I understand fully why he left home, you know, besides the fact that it's in Corvallis too, but he left home.
His future in Michigan State is he knows that.
Hey, Michigan State made the playoffs before.
Yeah, they made the playoffs when both you and I were tech sergeants. that was a while ago.
Hey, Texas A&M last won a national championship when my grandmother was 3 years old. You know, so
yeah, but that $9 million contracts they're giving out, those $75 million buyouts, that money transcends time.
So I guess we might as well talk about some coaches then.
That's probably what it was. That I can only imagine that because we had the same conversation. And it happens every year because you don't want to give up your leverage. Mm-hmm. If you have a new employee, especially it seems when it comes to this this coaching thing, because Nick Saban did the same thing when he was coaching Miami, the NFL, the Miami Dolphins, and he was like, "I'm not going to Alabama. Stop asking me about it." He was like demonstrative with it, just real forceful at this press conference.
Which normally tells us that it's going down.
Yeah, you know, like my boy, you know, my poor Carl Dixon back in the day used to tell me. He said this to me was in Korea. He was like, "An empty wagon makes the most noise." I was like, like you put some substance in it, you know, it's not loud. You see two guys ready to fight, the dude that's screaming, "I kill you, I knock your head up," blah, blah, blah. He's like, that dude probably not really want the fight. The guy that's quiet and calm, but still in the fight, he's with it. So all these coaches that get on these podiums and they have a lot to say and they point fingers. You guys in the media drumming up these stories. It's been a coach like Bobby Petrino didn't say anything.
Whoa, hey, look at you reading my mind.
Yeah, he didn't say anything to the Falcons. I heard that Arkansas was thinking about hiring him as offensive coordinator.
No, they did hire him as offensive coordinator.
They actually hired him?
They hired him
earlier, so they were thinking about it.
You know, and that's why I've been making the joke all day. You remember that old video, hide your wife, hide your kids. Remember that? You know what I'm saying? Hide your motorcycles.
Time heals all wounds, I guess. But like he said, Bobby Petrino, I think they asked him a couple of questions, but then he called the meeting with the players. He wasn't apologetic. He called a meeting, I think, with the team captains, maybe some senior, players for the teams for the Falcons. I think it was like a week 13 before the week 13 game started. It was like, yo, I'm out. And he took the job. I think he took the job at Arkansas from there because he went from Louisville to Atlanta.
To Arkansas.
He left and went back to Arkansas.
And then he got on a motorcycle with that girl, and we saw him in the neck brace.
Listen, everybody, sometimes as you get a little older, I got the greater beard. I can see sometimes they just, your leadership, your power, your position It's not a good idea.
Yeah, they like that break.
It often is in tears.
They like that break for some reason. But
yeah, so with these coaches, man, it's like these deals don't happen quickly because it's probably so many layers like red tape and legalities and everything else that comes along with it, as well as opportunity for your current school to reach out and say, we want you to stay. But if you play the ego game, like, oh well, we don't care if you leave. Like we talk about Lincoln Riley.
Mm-hmm.
My man had his whole family in California the next day. Grandma was there, mom, dad, grandma, kids, wife. The dog, everybody dressed in USC colors. They had the stage built. It takes a while to put a scaffolding in the stage, and it was all set up in 2 days.
They had the best project managers in the country.
Yo,
hey, did you see the A&M drama this weekend?
I saw the buyout with Jimbo Fisher, and I was trying to figure out who was going to be next, and I thought they was going to make a big splash, but I think they did like a little drop in the puddle kind of.
Well, so what happened was so what initially, okay. They wanted the home run hire, which there is no such thing as, but that's what they wanted.
There is a home run hire, and I'm going to mention it again later. I don't want to say it now. But
no, we're going to talk about this. There is no, like, the home run hire, you don't know it's a home run until like 5 years later.
You do it at the beginning.
No, the only home run hire there has been in college football is when you hired Nick Saban or Urban Meyer. That's it. Dabo would be considered a home run now, but he wasn't a home run when Clemson hired him, But anyway, we'll get into all that. But yeah. So there started being news that was coming out. I started to feel smart because I heard Dabo's name. Then they said, "Well, I think it's going to be Ryan Day," and somebody in the media actually tweeted that out. Like, "Hey, I'm hearing it's going to be Ryan Day." So then Saturday comes, Ryan Day loses to Michigan. So now I'm sitting by my phone and got my laptop. I'm ready. Never happens. And then I hear Mark Stoops is going to be the next coach at Texas A&M. And I go, Mark Stoops, okay. I like it to some degree, but okay. Then A&M Nation acted up. Like, I know you remember when Tennessee tried to hire Schiano. They went that style. They were like, no way. And I guess it was because they saw that he's 33-55 in the SEC, or they saw that while he's been at Kentucky, he's only beaten 2 teams that finished with a winning SEC record that season. So they were like, no. And then they went to Duke and got Mike Elko, who was their former defensive coordinator. And since you like records and stuff, because, we were talking about fourth quarter comebacks and stuff.
Yeah. We're talking about all your depth of knowledge as far as like these college coordinators moving around.
But here's the funny part. When Mike Elko was Texas A&M's defensive coordinator, their record was 34-14. Since he's been gone, 12-12.
No copyright.
12-12. So, yeah, I like the hire. I think it's the right way to go. He brings, hopefully, the word is that he recruited a lot of those players in that greatest recruiting class ever. So hopefully,
from a few years ago, when they had the number 1 recruiting class.
Right. So hopefully, he can keep them and tie them down.
Man, just pay them.
But his contract,
money. Just show them the money, Jerry Maguire style. Like, I don't know why these dudes out here fronting. You're at Texas A&M. You just pay a $75 million buyout. It's got a $160 million donation from the 12 group or whatever their moniker is.
Yeah, the 12th man.
Cut the check. Put yourself in position to be a viable SEC West championship caliber team.
And they got off light
from there.
They got off light because they went to Duke to get their coach. So the contract, 6 years, $42 million.
Easy money, easy buyout. Money,
whereas Stoops was probably going to be double that.
80? You think he was going to get $80 million for a guy that went 33-55?
Well, Kentucky's paying him $9 million a year. And I figure, and every time I can't remember the exact clause in his contract, but it's something along the lines of if he wins 8 or 9 games, he gets an extra year added to his contract or something along those lines. So, so to
That's
get
a
him,
weird stipulation to have.
yeah, well,
It's the
actually,
same thing with the points in Iowa's. Like,
right,
I don't need these special. Like, this isn't a video game. Give me a
right.
real contract and let me
Well,
play it out. Let me
they
earn
put
it, or
something
let me
similar.
lose.
Well, they put something similar in Elko's contract, this contract, saying that if he wins the SEC or makes the playoffs, they'll add a year on as well. Like they added that to the contract. But before we get into who's next and all that, I just want to throw a couple of more things out there. So Mississippi State, they went out and got Jeff Lebby, who everyone knows is Oklahoma's offensive coordinator. He was also the offensive coordinator at UCF, not when they won the national title. He came after, so he was on Josh Heupel's staff. So he runs that Baylor offense, that crazy quick motion and everything. But the problem that he brings with him, if there is a problem, is his father-in-law, is Art Briles, who he had on the field at Oklahoma and got a talking to this year. So, like we'll see how they deal with that down in Starkville if that comes to be. But
But
4 years,
he was down in Jackson State with Dion for a little bit too, right? Yeah. I think a couple of
yeah, he might have
seasons
been like
ago.
a consultant or
I
something.
think he was a consultant or like a defensive coordinator, something. He had some
I
kind
can't
of
remember. Yeah,
position where down in
but
good old Jackson State, yeah.
yeah, but 4 years, 18 million, for Jeff Lebby, first time as a head coach coming up. Jonathan Smith, we already talked about going to Michigan State, 34 and 35, 6 seasons at Oregon State. But before you sniff at that, it is Oregon State. They went 18 and 7 the last 2 years. And then my guy, I had to bring it up, Dana Holgerson.
You read the whole quote?
I'm going to read the quote.
Yo, you got to hear this quote.
So before the season started, he was doing
Poetic
an interview
justice.
with The Athletic. And coming into the season, everybody else in America knew that he was on the hot seat. They asked him if he thought that he was on the hot seat. And he said, quote, "We won 20 games in 2 years. We won bowl games in back-to-back years. I have 5 years on my contract with a fucking impossible buyout. So there ain't no fucking hot seat in my mind," end quote. And lo and behold, he's out of a job right now. So real quick, the college openings right now. We got Houston, Middle Tennessee State. Syracuse was open, but now Fran Brown, Georgia defensive backs coach, is coming in there. Boise is open. Obviously, Mike Elko left. Duke is open. San Diego State is open, but there's rumors that either Tony White, who I mentioned for Syracuse, he's the defensive coordinator in Nebraska right now, or, you ready?
Yo, Mike is like Rain Man when it comes to these coaches in college football. Yeah, I'm listening. Ready? I'm a fan right now.
Or Sean Lewis, who we might remember getting demoted at Colorado.
How is he going to get demoted at Colorado and to get hired to be a head coach at another school?
Because we know that Dion be doing stuff for attention, and Sean Lewis is a very good coach. That's why he took Kent State to the MAC championship game. And Kent State is probably the worst team in or the worst school in FBS.
Shout out to Edelman.
Not named Akron, but Indiana is open. Oregon State is open now that Jonathan Smith went to Sparty, but Indiana, word on the street is keep your eye on Ryan Grubb, offensive coordinator at Washington. I had him for UCLA. UCLA hasn't come open, but he was in Indiana under Caleb DeBoer, when he was there. UTEP is open. And then finally, New Mexico. So Mr. Logic.
You brought up Dana Holgerson and the fired coaches. Yeah. Looking at an article now from a couple of days ago. Some of the candidates, one might be kind of close to home. We got Jeff Taylor from UTSA.
Yep, I like that for Houston. That's who I want Houston to hire. Either him or Willie Fritz out of Tulane.
Jesus Christ, really? The next name, this Tulane head coach Willie Fritz.
Yep, those are the two. Those are the only two. If they don't get either one of them, just don't hire nobody. Like,
don't hire anybody.
Just don't hire nobody. It's those two.
I got two names that I think I got. One of these names I think is in a position for another position is a rumor. We got former TCU head coach Gary Patterson.
Don't hire him.
And then we got former Arizona Cardinals and Texas Tech head coach Cliff Kingsbury.
For Houston?
For Houston.
Okay.
That's the rumor.
Okay.
That's the rumor per this article in the Siron, published on November 26, 2023 by Josh Criswell.
I can see it.
The fact that you was like, yeah, Tulane coach, this is what Mike does. We didn't discuss this part before. So Mike coming out with that at the top of his head before I read it out of the article was like, this is how this man's college football brain works.
Well, he was supposed to take the Georgia. We talked about him a couple of weeks ago. He was supposed to take the Georgia Tech job this last season, but he wanted to coach the bowl game. So Georgia Tech didn't want to wait for him because of recruiting and all that, transfer portal, so on and so forth. And all he did was
how much time do you really need?
And all he did was go out and beat Caleb Williams in the bowl game.
Caleb Williams, we're going to talk about him later as well.
Yeah.
Are we sticking with the coaches theme, or are we just going to go?
Yeah. Like, who's next? Like, so you had some ideas of some coaches across sports, not just
across
college
sports.
Football. Right.
So I am apparently. I've anointed myself as a champion of the Cliff Kingsbury fan club because I think that move, I think it just makes sense. I don't think he was a bad coach in Arizona. He just was given a moody ass quarterback who thought he was better than he was
and couldn't put the PlayStation down.
Like, I mean, it's just a matter of I believe that I don't know where Caleb or Kyler Murray was humbled.
Mm-hmm.
I know he went to Texas A&M. So if you think about this, my son said something to me at the beginning of the year when he first started his high because he's a freshman. He's like, I'm afraid I don't want to be one of those guys that he's like, I really like high school. It really works for me. I like it, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he said in our family group chat, I don't want to be one of those guys that peaked in high school. Well, if you think about Caleb Murray in high school or Kyler Murray in high school, he went like 43-0 and won 3 state championships in the state of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Gets drafted into Major League Baseball. He's on the Oakland A's. Then he goes to Texas A&M, doesn't work out, transfers to Oklahoma, explodes, Heisman Trophy, then undersized, substantially undersized. Probably, realistically, he's probably 4 inches shorter than every other quarterback that's had historical success. I know Drew Brees was listed at 6 foot. I think Michael Vick was the same way, 6 foot, 6'1".
Mm-hmm.
Kyler Murray might realistically be, if you measured him, he might be 5'9". So knowing that and still getting drafted number 1 overall to a team that had just drafted a kid in the top 10 the year before, they fired the coach, they got rid of him, and he could say to himself, they brought me in
mm-hmm.
with Kingsbury, and I don't think that marriage ever worked. So Kingsbury I think he was behind the 8 ball from the beginning. Unfortunately, Kyler towards ACL last year led to the dismissal of Kingsbury, which I thought would have probably given them another year together. But in the same sense, if I'm ownership, it's like, well, I'm not sure how I feel about the quarterback, even though they gave him the big extension.
Or how he's going to look when he comes back.
How he's going to look when he comes back. I'm better off starting new because at a minimum in September, Kyler wasn't going to be your starter. So I might as well get a new coach, new quarterback in there, or a new plan or new face or new voice, even though the GM was like getting in trouble for like other random stuff. So I think Kingsbury, I think he has a shot. I think
here's a question
for Carolina. If I'm Carolina, I think I'd give him a call.
Here's a question for you. He coached 75 games at Texas Tech.
He's probably 30 and 45.
There you go.
Some of those games were really 30,
Or,
40
or, or
drives.
35 and 40. 35 and 40.
35 and 40. So yeah, same thing. Some of those games with Patrick Mahomes, but we've seen sometimes like it all has to be in place because Patrick Mahomes is a great talent. But
All right, well,
if you don't focus on the defensive side of the ball, or like in Kansas City's case currently, you don't go get a real number one wide receiver. You know, it could suck. You could have all the talent in the world. The one throw he made last week to Kelsey over excuse me. He threw a pass. They dropped the defensive end of coverage. Patrick Mahomes threw a pass over this guy's inside shoulder that landed right in Kelsey's hands. That's just top flight talent. And a coach has nothing to do with that. Kingsbury probably should have done better.
All right, well, 66 games in the NFL. What's his record?
They had a playoff run. Probably pretty close to average, 30 and 36 or something like that.
27, 38, and 1.
But you have the caveat of you had Kyler Murray. It's undersized. He wasn't, markedly overwhelming with his play. So it wasn't as if you had a guy that anybody could have made it work with. And I'm not knocking Kyler Murray, but
right.
There are limitations.
Yeah.
I'm 5'8.5", 5'9" on a good day if I'm stretched out. I'm not going to be a good power forward in any basketball league of any age range my entire life. It's just no matter how hard I worked, how much you like me, no matter how much I wowed you in an interview, having me at this physical limitation in a game where physicality matters, you can't ignore it because you really liked my heart and my hustle. It's like, okay, cool. We really appreciate that. But also, you always got to roll out.
Yeah.
You're always scrambling. You're always running for your life. Every sack could be your last. Shoulder injuries. You only weigh about 200, 205 pounds.
Yeah, we
Chris
learned that
Jones weighs like 330.
Yeah, we learned that shit with Jeremy Lin.
He's a flash in the pan. Jeff Teague said he was nice, though.
I mean, he was nice, but I mean,
he said Kobe didn't like him.
But yeah, so getting back to it, so what coach do you have on your radar that may not be where he is sometime soon?
Ooh.
Because I got two.
All right, let's see. Eberflus in Chicago might be good.
Okay.
Because there could be an argument made for Justin Fields not being that guy.
Okay.
So if I'm whoever the decision maker is, I think this guy's like Ryan Poles or something like that, the GM. If he has a situation where he's at the head of the table and you have pro Eberflus guys on one side and guys who are pro Justin Fields on the other side, and they both make their case, and he has like two people, kind of like listen. I think the people who are pro Eberflus could give a more compelling argument because we haven't seen the quarterbacking improvement from Justin Fields.
Well, I think the argument is, do you want to pay this dude? I think that's the argument.
Well, that's the thing. We're so accustomed to these guys starting off early and doing well. Trevor Lawrence, Burrow,
Herbert.
Justin Herbert,
Allen.
Patrick Mahomes
Allen started off
exceeded. Allen started off. By the time he had his money,
yeah. But he started off. Yeah.
So by the time these guys all hit their contract eligible extension years, Lamar already had an MVP, but he had some injuries where he didn't play.
Hurts could have had one. Yeah.
But then Hurts ended up getting one as a second round guy. He already got his extension. So, but you could do it. Baker Mayfield they picked up a 5th-year option. I think he got him $30 million, and he ended up getting moved around. So you say, I'll give you 30 as a trial because that's just what the rate of the position goes for. If they could give him 13 as a max, I bet you they would go with that. But because the way the collective bargain and everything works out, you got to give them the 5th-year option. So I think you're in a position with Justin Fields with that. But because they have Carolina's pick and their own pick, it could be a situation where they sit Justin Fields starting week 13,
Whatever.
14.
Yeah, they're on the bye this week. Yeah.
Yeah. So you sit them and you see what you have in Tyson and you lose those games. Now you go, I think right now they have 1-5 because it's 2. I don't know what the order, but New England, Arizona. Who else is doing terrible this year with 2 or 3 wins?
Giants.
No, the Giants got a couple of
They got
sneaky
4?
wins.
Well, I know they beat Washington twice and they beat New England the other day. I'm trying to find another win, but I don't know if it's there.
I think they snuck somebody in there.
Okay.
But even with that, they're not going to take a quarterback because they just paid their guy 160.
Right.
So even from 2, 3, 4, say it is, those 3 teams, and then Chicago's at 5.
Well, shit, I would think Arizona's still in the conversation.
Arizona's might be in the conversation, but I think their pick might go to Miami.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but Arizona might be that team at 4, come to think of it. So it might be Arizona at 4, Chicago at 5. So Chicago at 1 and 5. They lose a couple more games. And Arizona plays Kyler Murray and he wins a couple more. They move up to 1 and 3 or 1 and 2. Now you can go get Caleb Williams.
That would be nuts.
Marvin Harrison Jr. That should be the goal. Like, I'm not trying to have these guys out there hurting themselves and playing hard, but I don't know if you have it with Justin Fields. I would never do that.
Trust the process.
But what I'm advocating is more predictive, productive future. I like Justin Fields. I think he would have been one of those quarterbacks that should have got the Aaron Rodgers treatment. He should have got the drafted to an established team, sat behind a guy for a year or 2, learn get that Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers treatment. Some guys are Matt Ryan, some guys are Joe Flacco. Zach Wilson's a guy that should have sat behind a guy for a couple of years. Mac Jones probably could have sat behind a guy for a couple of years. Justin Herbert, you could play him. Trevor Lawrence, you could play him. Bryce Young is probably looking like a guy that should have sat. Where's CJ Stroud look like a guy you could put out there? And I'm not even talking about the win-loss record. I'm just talking about how it looks pre-snap, during the play, when the decision is made. And I'm not even talking fully, but the results of the decision, because I don't think all these guys are going to come out here and throw for 330 yards every week. But is that route the route you should have thrown a pass in that situation?
Right.
Sometimes Justin Fields looks like a guy who scrambles out of a situation where it was there. Mac Jones, that's what Bill O'Brien was getting on him at the game against Indianapolis when he was yelling at him on the sidelines because, listen, they called a route, and on the snap, on his third or fourth drop, they paused. I think it was Dan Orlovsky on ESPN. They paused it. Butte would have been open, like he was running like a fade route on his right side. Gesicki was running up the seam. He was open. The running back was in for protection. And then I think they went 2 tight ends. So the other tight end was open on the left side, and the other wide receiver was open. Like when they paused it, he had protection and 4 open guys. They hit play. He doesn't pull the trigger. And then he's sacked. And I know if you play it in slow motion, it looks like, you played in slow motion. But that should have been a split second reaction. Like, okay, this guy's open. So same thing with Zach Wilson. There's been plays where Desmond Ridder's another quarterback. They took him out. The game he got benched for Tyler Heineke, he went into halftime. I think he was 8 for 12 for 95 yards. Mm-hmm. That's 75%. But it's for 95 yards. And it's 95 yards because the route that was that initial deep route or the deep out or the deep in route was open, you didn't throw it, you checked it down. So now you got a completion, but it's 3rd and 11. We got 7 yards, we got a punt. We come back out. Couple of runs, now it's 3rd and 8. You do it again. Now we got a punt. Yeah, you got a completion, and it looks good for your completion percentage, but the route to get the first down was throwing it to Kyle Pitts here or throwing it to Drake London here, and you didn't do it. And that's why they benched him for Heineke. And Heineke was throwing the ball over the field, but obviously he's going to make mistakes because backup quarterbacks fumble or throwing interceptions a la Josh Dobbs. So, yeah.
Well, the first name that came to my mind. Oh, and by the way, for all you fans out there, the Milwaukee Bucks are on their way to joining the 8-team Vegas tournament. They're about to beat the Heat here. So we will have the Lakers, the Pacers, and the Bucks as a part of our play-in tournament continuing, group winners and everything. And also, while you brought it up, since he brought up Joe Flacco, shout out to the Delaware Blue Hens, moving up the Conference USA in 2 years. Another FBS team, But anyway, how long does it take to get a U-Haul from, say, Nashville to Boston?
About 18 hours, probably.
Because I think that over the next couple of weeks, Mike Vrabel will have a chance to pack his bags and head on up the highway to New England.
Are they going to fire Belichick?
I haven't made it there yet. I don't know if they're going to fire him or if he's going to step down or if he's going to take another job or what.
Is he untouchable?
But I don't think he's going to be there next year. By hook or crook, I don't think he's going to be there next year. I just haven't figured out what the reason will be yet.
Logistically and logically, there's no reason for him to be there. Like none. Like there hasn't been enough success post Tom Brady with draft picks, free agent signings,
right?
The regular season outcomes that says because he calls his shots. Sometimes you get situations where the GM just gives you players, you got to make it work. He is the GM. So he can't say somebody else put me in this position with these players.
Doc Rivers.
And he doesn't have. I know he has the cachet to argue that he should get another shot, but his recent, what's the math? 54 games does not support post-COVID. From COVID until today, he doesn't have on top, like not even a player performance. It's like coaches' decisions. Bringing Joe Judge back after he got fired. Bringing Patricia back after he got fired. He has like 2 sons on the staff that are coordinators or like high end positions. He had a defensive coordinator calling offensive plays last year. Then he brought Bill O'Brien back. Bill O'Brien is not a successful coach.
Well, I think that.
And it's worked, and it looked worse than the defensive coordinator. So, like, even with that, even bringing Bill O'Brien back when he probably shouldn't have gotten a chance. And people say, oh, he was a great coordinator with Tom Brady. And then he looks worse than Matt Patricia did as offensive coordinator.
Bill Belichick walked in that room and was like, yo, I got Zeke. That was his claim to fame. He was like, I got Zeke. But like I said, I don't know if he's going to I don't think they'll fire him. I feel like it'll be some kind of mutual situation. There were rumors that he would be making his way over to Landover. I don't know if I believe that.
But I heard the same thing, that same rumor about him going to the Chargers. So I don't believe either one of those either.
Yeah, I
think that's something that the equipment boy said to one of the beat writers, and the beat writer can quote him as a source.
Right. But
none of that makes any sense.
But Vrabel, I just think time's up, and it's not necessarily his fault. I just think that you get to a point where it's just time to move on. So, like, for example, back when we were living in Utah, Correct. everybody used to always try to argue with me because I said that the Jazz should trade Darren. His name is really Deron Williams. And
that's a real argument he said.
Because like After 7 years, you know whether you can win a championship with somebody or not. Like regardless if you have or haven't, you see something there that says, if we keep this group together, we're going to win a championship or we're going to be a
This makes
contender.
sense. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's where I'm looking at it with Tennessee. Once they gave Tannehill all that money, it was over. There was no dream scenario that was going to take them to the Super Bowl. Now, they were fortunate enough to get to the AFC Championship game, and blew a big lead to Mahomes.
They had a good run. They were
they had a good run
the year after that.
That's what I'm saying, but it's over now. Like they're just
he threw that pick in Cincinnati. He threw the pick against Cincinnati, but they were the number 1 seed that year.
Right.
The year that Cincinnati went to the Super Bowl.
Right.
They
Cincinnati that year 9 times.
But Tannehill threw the game sealing interception.
Right.
But that playoff run, Cincinnati had 2 or 3 of those, like game sealing turnovers that brought Burrow back on the field for victory victory formation.
Well, but I just think that you reach a point where it's just time. Like nobody's mad at anybody.
It's a new GM.
Yeah, that
came
too.
From San Francisco.
Yep. Not his guy. So you have that going on. Tannehill's probably going to be out of there because now Levis is the future.
You got enough. You got Will Levis is a piece you can dangle as a come coach here in Tennessee because we got something going.
Right.
And they're in the AFC South where it's a winnable division.
Well, that's the other problem. That's what I was going to get to. That's the other problem. You got the Colts out here at 6-5, without Anthony Richardson playing. You got CJ Stroud out here looking like a top 3 quarterback in the league. You got Trevor Lawrence over in Jacksonville. They got over the hump, made the playoffs last year. They got a Super Bowl winning coach on their sideline. They're leading the league in turnover margin this year.
They could be like the new NFC West where like 3 or 4 teams are just, you could potentially pencil them in for 10 wins. That 3 of those 3 teams. Same thing with the NFC East. But you got to make the right call.
And now you're at the bottom, so you got to go. Now you're at the bottom, so you got to go.
So you hire you send Vrabel up to Gillette Stadium. Shout out to Boston. Boston's a great city. If anybody want to go to Massachusetts, Massachusetts, great city.
I haven't been there, but all I keep hearing about is people crapping on where the airport is in relation to the rest of the city.
Oh, the airport is way out in the islands where don't do the airport. Like
don't fly into Logan, y'all.
if you fly into Logan, just make sure you got some Uber money.
Fly to Logan, Utah instead. But
you look out the window, it's just water. Because I flew on a connecting flight and I looked out the window, I'm like, oh, we in the middle of the water. Like we out here.
Yeah.
Boston in itself is dope. I think Vrabel will fit right in. I think he'll bring that Belichickian kind of demeanor. But I just don't know. I don't know if I want to be the guy. Like we said it about Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck was fortunate that he didn't follow Peyton Manning.
Right.
It was Peyton Manning, then Sorgi, Curtis Painter, then Andrew Luck. So you want to be the guy that follows the legend, and then you follow that guy. I don't know if Vrabel wants to go up because even though he's not part of Belichick's coaching tree, he's part of the championship pedigree.
Well, the good news though, there's good news.
Their division's winnable though.
There's good news here. Say hypothetically, Nick Saban retires after this season. You don't want to follow Nick Saban because he's probably going to the playoffs, or at the very least, he went to the SEC championship game. Yes,
pretty standard.
Right. You can't match Belichick's success, right? But look at what New England is right now. You're not taking over for the legend going out in a legendary way, so that might make a difference.
Yeah, but he was part of the legendaries teams led by the legend. So the expectation is you are going to bring us back to our heyday when we won 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, kind of a thing.
Draymond's back, y'all.
Yeah, he should be suspended for like 20 games, whatever.
First game back. And what's so funny? Golden State last year, You remember they had the worst league in the worst road record in the league last year, and this year they can't win at home. Like I just don't even understand. But so second coach that I had, my second coach, I had two coaches. So my second coach, now I'm going to leave the NFL. And unfortunately, this is a coach that has won 2 championships. But that was like 16, 17 years ago. He's coached great players such as Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant. And now he's a shell of himself in Chicago. The one and only Billy Donovan. It is time for the Bulls to cut bait. Let me tell you some reasons why. So first of all, his overall record as the Bulls coach, 122 and 132. He has DeMar DeRozan. He has Zach LaVine. And they're 5 and 13 this year, 23rd in offense. Even if you take them out of the equation and say, okay, whatever, like, fine. They're 28th in rebounding. So if you're going to be bad, the least you can do is get some rebounds.
Fucking hustle.
And they got Andre Drummond on their roster, first of all. Lastly, according to my guys over at 538.com, the Bulls, as of this moment, have a 2.4% chance to make the playoffs.
I thought it was going to be 2.4% to win the championship.
No. So,
but just to be one of the 20 teams or one of the 16 teams or one of the 8 teams or one of the 10 teams?
I'm guessing they're counting the play-in as well.
The play-in, so they got a 2.4% chance to be.
Well, they're 5 and 13.
10 out of 16.
Hey, remember what I told you? The Pistons are 2 and 15. They're 2.5 games better than the Pistons. It's time to go, Billy Donovan. I'm sorry. It's time.
I don't know. I just don't feel. I watch a lot of football, and I have a lot of football conversations. In basketball, I'm trying to figure it out because scheme-wise, I understand football. Because if you watch a football game or you play a football game digitally, you can kind of see like what it means. You can see what cover 3 means. You can see what cover 2 man, 0 blitzes, cover 2 man. Even though it's just Madden and people hate Madden, as a concept, I can understand how that works. I don't understand how you have a team with Zach LaVine who seems to be capable of getting his own shot from 23 feet to the hoop. I think he can pull up from 3. I think he dribbles the ball well enough to get a mid-range shot. And I think he has the size and athleticism to get to the rim.
Mm-hmm.
DeRozan doesn't shoot a lot of threes, but he's the king of the mid-range.
King of the mid-range.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's like the Kawhi Leonard 2.0.
They got Vucci, man.
And then you got Vucic, who's a stretch 4, stretch 5, whatever you want to call him.
Mm-hmm. You got Caruso to play some defense. You got
Caruso's your hustle guy.
You got Kobe White off the bench. Microwave kind
point
of
guard. Your just energy. He seems like from his draft, his press conference during the draft, when he was super excited for Cam, who got drafted to Phoenix. You can tell he's a big, real energy guy. You could tell like his vibe is, contagious, like a good, positive vibe. It just doesn't make any sense to me that Chicago is out here struggling. And it has to be the voice. Do you bring Thibodeau back? I don't know what you do. Like it has to. Like obviously that was.
I have no idea why the King's Court is in the Warriors colors. But anyway,
it's in Sacramento.
Yeah,
and it's in Warriors royal blue and gold.
Yeah, well, it's not gold quite. It's kind of like
why is it royal blue at all?
Yeah, because it's
and black. Purple and black's a dope color combination.
Well, granted, the Kings are wearing like blue uniforms, but still, like You know, they're wearing
Is
their
that like
old
a
schools.
throwback?
I guess so. But
What year
anyway,
were they that color?
that was like the 80s, back when they had Kenny Smith and stuff.
The Kings?
They had the dark blue, and then they had the powder blue or whatever. Like
I wouldn't want to wear anything close to my opponent, even if it was my throwback jersey.
Yeah.
You can do throwback that against the Bulls.
But yeah, I don't think that Billy Donovan is an NBA coach. You know, I think that he excelled obviously in college. He won back-to-back national titles at Florida. You know, he came to the NBA and got gifted a roster with Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. It don't take much to win 48 to 50 games with those two. You
They
know,
don't win it all because those
you know,
guys aren't champions.
and
Those
you
guys
know,
aren't leaders.
and then he had the 3-1. He had the 3-1 failure against the Warriors. You know, so and of course you can't hold that against him because that's a team that won 73 games. You know what I mean?
You had him down 3-1. I don't care.
I mean,
Yeah, when you
had
get him down
3-1.
3-1, you get him down 3-1, you gotta be able to squeeze out one of those games.
Draymond would have put him in a chokehold.
Draymond's a front. I'd fight Draymond Green.
But anyway, so
and I'd win.
So those were my two coaches. But while we're here, we might as well talk about my guy, Mr. Frank Reich. You ain't know he was my guy, did you?
I mean, apparently this is new information to me, but you know,
he's a Terp. He's a Terp.
Well, he is apparently the perpetrator, and he's going to take the fall for this terrible season that the Carolina Panthers have had.
Yes.
I don't understand it.
I don't understand it either.
I don't understand it because when you drafted Bryce, I don't understand a lot of the moves, but we talked about this, and I was texting you earlier. Maybe I don't know if I'm the only one saying this. Hopefully I am, because that'd be kind of dope. These new owners are not traditional NFL people. They're not NFL families. They're not the Rooneys, the Mars, the Johnsons. They're not Jerry Jones, the Krafts. Robert Kraft probably owned the Patriots for 20 plus years. Jerry Jones is going on close to 30. You have the Rooneys, the Maras, the Browns, the Bensons. Arthur Smith has owned the Falcons since early 2000s. I think he drafted Mike Vick. The Cardinals, they're owned by the Bidwells. I mean, some of these names that you think about. Houston, I think they've had the same owner since they came back from expansion. Same thing with the Jim Irsay, the Colts. So a lot of these teams, I think the Browns had the same ownership since they came back, because the original Brown ownership went to Baltimore with the Ravens. Snyder just sold his team. So even that it wasn't great, it still was, 20, it was a couple of decades to where this $800 million investment went to a few billion. Whereas now, if you were to buy the Falcons today from Arthur Blank, $4 billion, realistically, you buy it for $4 billion, or your money management group, and then 2 years from now, the Seahawks sell for $6 billion. Now, in the 2 years you've owned the Falcons franchise, another team goes for $6 billion. So now somebody else sells. They sell give me another team that's like flighty, the Tennessee Titans. They go for $6.5 billion. So now you've owned the Falcons for 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years, maybe call it 6. Now you paid $4 billion. Now this team's going for $6.5 billion around you. You're willing to flip it. David Tepper's one of those guys. He bought the team from a guy who owned it for a couple of decades. That guy built some love into the team. He had responsibilities. He talked to Cam Newton about not getting tattoos.
Some of that love is why he ain't there no more.
I mean, some of it was a little too touchy-feely. It happens. Listen, we all cross the line. I mean, we all got to get brought back to center. Like, listen, you messed up, whatever the case may be.
What up, P. Diddy?
Now, I mean, what up, Robert? So, I mean, hell, Robert Kraft had a little situation in the. I don't know why there's a camera in the massage parlor, but that's neither here nor there.
I don't know. I think I saw some of those videos last week.
Yeah, but what happens is what happens is that this guy buys a team and he wants his investment to be successful, and it's like, well, in order for that to happen, you gotta get the hell out of the way. You don't know enough about football at that level to where you can dictate it. Because I've read a rumor, and granted, it's all gonna be rumors, conjectures, and like I said, it's her story, his story, and it's the truth in the middle.
Yeah,
that they made Frank Reich draft Bryce Young. That's what I read. And you told me in our pre-meeting that everybody else wanted Bryce Young, and then he wanted CJ Stroud. But I read something earlier that said that you hire Frank Reich and you made him take Bryce Young because before the draft, I think I was watching maybe NFL Network, and one of the pundits on that show said that Frank Reich is known to like big quarterbacks.
Carson Wentz.
That's why he gave Carson Wentz a chance, because he likes big quarterbacks. Phillip Rivers. I like big quarterbacks. Guys can seal the lines, guys that can hold onto the ball so we can get this deep route. You can't do that with a guy that's 5'9", 205, 5'10", 215, whatever the number whatever they gave him.
But the least you could do is get him a tight end.
Well, who made the deal to trade away the assets that they traded away to get the one? Chicago's Chicago. Who had the number one? Chicago had the number one. They had Justin Fields. They weren't going to take Bryce Young. But
right. And then Houston was at number 2. And that's why they had to go to 1, because the Texans was going to grab whichever one was there.
See, that's the thing. Houston was 2. They stayed at 2.
Yeah.
You had to go to 1. But if you had to go to 1, you think Houston would have taken Bryce Young at 2? Like
they might have taken Richardson.
Richardson was late. It was a late buzz on him.
Well, I'm just going off of the profile of CJ Stroud, like his height and all that kind of stuff. So
you
maybe
think they would have taken Richardson. Do you think that Carolina would have taken Richardson ahead of Stroud? If
that was all the reports that were coming out. Obviously you don't know what to believe because it's draft time.
Yeah.
People putting out all the noise, but that was what was being reported, was that Richardson, because even before they drafted Bryce Young, like leading up to draft day, I think a lot of people still
had Will Levis going number 1. I read articles that had Will Levis going on. That's why he was in the building.
That's what I'm saying. They just tossed.
That's why his girlfriend got even more famous on Instagram, because
I think they back together now too.
It was his 2 sisters and his mom. People thought that was he was dating, and then they came back and he but that's because all those rumors and everything else made it seem like it was a bigger deal. If I'm Chicago, I think Chicago made a great deal.
Oh snap! Chris Paul done shaved.
Yeah, he shaved so he can put the Vaseline on, so he can put the fair one on Scott Foster next time you see him. So with Frank, I think he was a casualty. Sometimes I feel like these firings have nothing to do with the record. I think it has to be a conversation where it's like, yo, I didn't want this dude. You made me take him.
Right. Just got a little bit out of pocket, too disrespectful.
It got out of hand. Like, I think Ken Dorsey. I still think Ken Dorsey's went to the meeting like, yo, your defense is the one that couldn't hold. You're supposed to be the defensive specialist.
And by the way, looking at these next couple of weeks, don't be surprised if Sean McDermott, you brought it up a couple weeks ago. Maybe Sean McDermott get relieved a little bit.
Oh, he's fired. Yeah, he's fired. He's fired.
Yeah.
He's fired because his team's he's had the glorious, and it's weird. It's like you've had quality players. You've had good free agents come through. They've got great contracts because Von Miller's contract is rather favorable considering what like Myles Garrett, Chase Young, Bosa, and all those other guys are like those kind of contracts. You got Von Miller a little later in his career, but still viable. So you got a good contract there. Poyer, Johnson. You had what's the other corner they had on the other side? Micah Hyde.
Did you say Milano?
Milano, the other quarterback, 27. Tre'Davious White.
Yeah, Trey White. Yep.
He keeps getting hurt, but when you had all those guys there, you had the pieces be successful, and you didn't make it happen. So I can see him being gone, just because it's like, what else am I going to give you? Why am I going to give you another year to do what?
Well, like
we're losing, we're going to lose players because now they got to start paying Josh Allen,
right?
Because there's contract extension, so he's going to be cutting into their salary cap pretty extensively.
Yeah. So, so who you blaming? You blaming him or Gabe?
I was watching It Is What It Is. The Cam, they had OJ Simpson on there because he talks about the Bills. But I give you two plays. Bailey Zappi did the fake spike against the Colts, and he threw in the middle of the field. That's dumb.
Yeah,
because you do the fake spike, you throw it to the outside because it's like your guy gets it or it goes out of bounds.
Right.
Because the corner is just scrambling.
Right.
He has no idea what's going on. And a zero blitz. If I'm a wide receiver and I'm already in the slot, I'm already in the slot. And a zero blitz, like you see it coming. Your quarterback has to you use some word, alert, or hot, or whatever.
Omaha.
Whatever vernacular they use that lets everybody know between the offensive line, the back that's in protection, the slot, whatever word he used said, this is a zero blitz. I see it. I know they're coming. So as a wide receiver, Cameron said this is like, yo, you got to be looking back. You know it's hot. He's like, he ran a regular route. Like the quarterback had time, and it was like, there's no one in the middle of the field. If I'm one-on-one with a safety or a corner, and everybody else and he has no help over top, go to the middle of the field. It's way easier to throw you a pass in the middle of the field. But he did, like I said, he did the same thing, and I meant to look it up earlier, but I was like, scrambling around, get to the barbershop. But I think he did the same thing, I'm going to say 2, maybe 3 weeks ago, where it was a miscommunication to where he went outside and Josh threw it inside. And it was wide open inside. I'm trying to think of the game because I remember I texted you and you were like, really? He did it again? I'm like, he did it before, but it was the same thing where we think about, remember the Russell Wilson play against Green Bay, an NC Championship game, and they sent everyone, and then Curse ran the low post route. That's what you do. It's easier for me as a quarterback just to lob it up in the middle of the field, and you just beat the corner.
I ain't got time to turn my body towards a direction. Yeah.
It's just all arm. It's just like, I see it coming, you in the middle. I got no one's over here. Like this end zone, the 52.5-yard wide end zone, like obviously the whole field is 15 yards wide. I can just lob it over here. You just run under it. I can throw it as high as I want because if you beat this, if you're in front of the corner or the safety and you outrun him to the spot, it's a touchdown. No one can defend it.
See, that's the problem for Buffalo. Like, because I had told you last week that I thought Buffalo was going to be competitive in that game and fight, and 500 yards of offense and all that stuff. But this is the problem with Buffalo. Remember, we talked about this coming into the season. Should Buffalo feel that they're one of those teams, like in that conversation with Kansas City, San Francisco, so on and so forth, to where if they don't go to the Super Bowl, even though they were never the favorite, neither one of us picked them to go or anything.
It's a tough task, yeah.
Yeah, but the point is that like there's no reason that y'all shouldn't be able. Like if Joe Burrow can get there in year 2, there's no reason that y'all couldn't have got there sometime in the last 3 years. Or like, what?
Considering the position that think about this. They gave up 2 long pass plays to Kansas City and a field goal with 13 seconds left. I was talking to my dad. He was like, they should have squibbed it. I'm like, I agree. You squib it at a minimum, you burn in 2 seconds. Because whoever picks the ball up has to make the decision, am I going to drop right here, stop the clock, or am I going to take a couple steps and then drop? So that 13 seconds off the squib kick gets to 11. Maybe a guy makes the wrong decision and he tries to get 2 extra yards and it gets to 9. And now you got Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, it's 2 timeouts, but he's 9 seconds from the 35-yard line. So he has to get a realistic. Like, you got to give up a 30-yard route. You got to give up a 25-yard route to get in with 9 seconds left. You got to give up 25 yards. So, like I say, if you squib it, the tight end gets it. He runs, lays down. It's 9 seconds left. They got the ball in 35. You got to get to the 40s, a 57-yard field goal. That's still a 20-yard pass play, and everyone knows you got to get to here. But instead, they let them get 2 pass plays off and a field goal in 13 seconds.
Say you could have played.
Just play your regular defense. You just play your regular base defense that you've been playing. You haven't given up anything in this regular base defense. Granted, it was like back and forth. Just play your regular base defense. Maybe you play a little softer over the top, but you play your regular. That way, at least it doesn't look easy to throw the pass. Because those passes, if we look at these replays, if I were to put it on TV now, literally, Travis Kelce said to, because I think who got the first one?
It was Tyreek, wasn't it?
Tyreek got the first one, right? So Tyreek got the first little quick pass. He did this little wiggle snake thing, laid down, timeout. And then Travis Kelce said, if they do that same thing again, they had the little, little banter back and forth. And Buffalo did the exact same thing. But if they go in the regular base defense, their base nickel defense, and just play the pass underneath, they're not going to try to beat you over the top. They don't have time. They don't have time to try to beat you over the top with less than 10 seconds left.
Right.
Because that's a 3 to 5 step drop. The ball's in the air. 1, 2, 3. Catch. Down. Timeout. Like, unlikely. Even if you get beat for a bomb, the likelihood you get beat for a bomb and the guy runs right out of bounds with a second left, unlikely. But if you stand and let him just run right up the seam and slide down, and that's what they did. They gave up 50 yards in 2 plays.
I know. Yeah, I've been waiting for Oregon to slide.
You probably should have got fired then. Realistically, I think that would have been better, because now the next coach doesn't have that in his head. The next coach just makes decisions based off of what I think my team can do. Whereas McDermott, there's no reason to fire Ken Dorsey. Josh Allen didn't throw the fucking ball.
I'm on play and watch, Houston 90, Dallas 88 with about 9:45 left. Houston wins. They're in.
How many points Luka have? Let me see. Because his over-under was 29.5 for the betting line.
But yeah, like I was saying, though, I've been waiting for Oregon to slide down because I'm going up and down the schedule and I'm still trying to figure it out. They lost to Washington. And this is why I asked the question in the intro of why is Washington not number 1 or number two? Do I think Washington is better than Georgia? Probably not. But
look at the over.
but I am more of the resume deserving than best, because when you say best, you're bringing subjectivity into it. Now, the problem is even when you say most deserve a resume, it's still subjective because it depends on what it's in the eye of the beholder. So as I look at this, Oregon played Washington. Washington won by 3 because Oregon turned into Staley and tried to go for all the 4th downs. But they still went for all those fourth downs. Not Washington's fault. Washington got the game-winning touchdown. Oregon had a chance to kick the field goal, put it into overtime, and they missed. Okay, we got that right now. When I look at the rest of Oregon's schedule, I don't know if we want to give them credit for beating USC because, oh, by the way, Washington had beat them the week before. And oh, by the way, Utah had beat them the week before. And oh, by the way, Notre Dame had beat them the week before that.
Listen, man, Utah's a tough team, man. Shout out to the Utes. Wasatch Front was good.
But Washington, on the other hand, you can't rank Oregon as the top one-loss team while not giving Washington the benefit of you beat the best one-loss team. Just like I was talking to Black Adam earlier, right? Because everything. Shout out everything LSU, right? You know what I mean? So first thing, everybody else is sitting here talking about, is Michigan going to overtake Georgia? What's going to happen with Ohio State? First thing he says, why Oklahoma in front of LSU? And I said, because Oklahoma beat Texas. They have a win that LSU does not have, and they have one less loss, by the way. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's why Oklahoma is in front of, but it's the same question, right? You put Oklahoma as in front of, these teams. I want to say they're 12 or 13.
You got Oklahoma 12, LSU 13, okay. Louisville 14, Arizona 15. So I think they fit into your argument, right?
So hold on. So let's back up for a second. So Penn State was 10.
10.
With 2 losses.
Correct.
I'm guessing, is Missouri 11?
So we got, you want to go 2-loss teams?
Yeah.
So right now I got Missouri at 9.
Okay, they're at 9. Okay.
Penn State 10-2 at 10. Ole Miss, Oklahoma.
Okay, boom. There we
LSU go. At 9-3 is 13. 10-2 Louisville as 14.
Right. And Louisville deserves to be there because they lost to 2 very bad teams. So screw them. I'll see you on Saturday. But but like the thing, so with Missouri, going down the resume, who has Missouri beat? Number 21 Tennessee. They beat number 25 Kansas State. But Texas did too. And so when I'm looking at Oklahoma, they're where they are reflects where Texas is. Because Texas is behind Oregon and Ohio State. And I don't understand why. Because Oregon nor Ohio State went into Tuscaloosa and beat number 8 Alabama.
So this is my thing. Because I looked at this, because like I said, the ratings dropped. We started doing our pre-meeting. I made this face, and you were like, you're looking at Ohio State? I look at it like this. Big 12 championship is Texas and who?
Oklahoma State.
Texas and Oklahoma State. So, Ohio State not in the Big 10 championship.
Correct.
So, when they lost to Michigan, that was essentially their Big 10 championship.
That's your playoff.
That's your playoff game.
Don't tell me every week matters.
Ohio State should have gone to 8. Texas 6, Alabama 7. Because Ohio State, there's nothing. You can't get another shot. You can't get back in to the playoff. You can't get back into 4 because if you think about the math,
they can if there's a bunch of chaos.
But that's the thing. If we just go back this basic little bit here, Georgia plays Alabama in the SEC. Okay, Georgia loses. Does Michigan jump Georgia?
Probably they would have to.
I mean, no, excuse me. Georgia no, Ohio State. Sorry, Ohio State. So Georgia loses. Does Ohio State at 8, even at 6, do they jump Georgia?
Well, here's the interesting conversation, right? And I hate saying this. So
they're not playing in there. They're not. You gotta keep in mind. You got it. So what you're if you think right now, because like I said, they're at 6, 7, 8. Anybody would argue that, like I said, I think they should be 8 because I don't think they don't control their own destiny to the playoffs. So they should,
what I would tell
in my
you?
opinion, they should go to 8.
You know what I would tell you?
What's that?
And I'm not saying that I agree with this. I'm just saying like in college football, full lure as it is, we talked about this. Could Alabama get in over Texas, even though Texas beat Alabama head to head? And we came up with who had the better loss. So that's what we have here. Ohio State's loss to Michigan, in theory, would be better
than a loss to Alabama.
It would be
because Alabama is quintessentially they've been a powerhouse school for well over a decade.
We're talking about this season. We're talking about this season.
And yes, I think their fans will travel the same. But if you think about it, like I said, if you got Ohio State at 6 and Alabama beats Georgia, are you gonna move Ohio State into the top 4 and Georgia out?
Potentially.
My argument is this. My argument is like for why I think Ohio State should be lower, because then
what if Florida State loses? Because what if Florida State loses?
If Florida State loses, then you're in the same boat. If Florida State loses, then you put Georgia at 4. Alabama. Okay.
But why?
Michigan. Why? Because
why?
I don't know. I honestly,
okay,
logically speaking, I don't know why.
Let me ask you this.
This would be more likely, not necessarily. I can't really break down the why, but like the most likely scenario is this: Georgia loses to Alabama. Oregon beats Washington
Friday night.
Florida State loses to Missouri.
To Louisville,
yeah. So you would move Texas and Alabama. So you would put Michigan 1, Alabama 2, Texas 3, Georgia 4.
Wait.
You could argue for Ohio State.
I see what you're doing.
Could argue for Ohio State.
No. The argument is Oregon, because Oregon would be a conference champion.
Oh, my bad. I skipped Oregon.
Yeah,
Oregon
you did. Yes,
yeah, my bad. Okay.
So that's why Georgia can't get there. That's why Georgia can't.
But that further, like I said, that further ramps up my argument for why Ohio State should be 8, because I don't think there's a real path, no matter who wins or loses. The wins and losses would only get the other teams who competed in the championships into the 4, because I don't think Ohio State could jump anyone.
What if
Texas would have to lose?
What if
Texas and Alabama, Florida State, and Washington all have to lose for Ohio State to get back in?
Here's a question. And this is more like we're just having a conversation because this ain't a realistic scenario. What if Michigan loses
to
Iowa?
They go to 12-1. And Michigan's the only one that loses?
All right, let's go Michigan, Florida State, Washington lose.
Oh, then it's all bets are off. Like that, I think that's easy for the committee, because Michigan, you said Michigan, Washington, Florida State lose?
Could Washington lose and still get in? Like, say they lose by 3 the same way that Oregon lost by 3.
So you got Michigan losing to Iowa?
No. I mean, not for real. I'm just
no. Hypothetically, no.
Yeah. I'm just saying.
Georgia's 13-0, so you got Georgia winning out.
Okay.
Georgia wins.
Yep.
Michigan loses to Iowa.
Yep.
That's what you're saying.
Yep.
Washington loses to Oregon.
Yep.
And Florida State loses to Louisville.
Yep.
Okay. So that would put Oregon up to 2.
Mm-hmm.
That would move. So Texas wins.
Yep.
Texas
is 3.
So yeah, and then Ohio State would be 4.
But why? Because that's why I said, could I make an argument that Washington could be 4? Because they have a better resume. They have a better resume.
They lost too late.
Hey, TCU lost last year and they still got in.
But there was no, because Alabama had 2 losses. And Alabama with 1 loss.
And USC had lost.
Alabama, either one of those teams with a 1 loss, they're in.
Yeah, TCU.
Yeah, so what you would want for your 2-5 scenario, the chaotic, like this is my chaotic scenario that I want, just because I want every year I want the committee to show their true colors.
I just want my playoff. I just want the playoff that I predicted before the season to be right.
So I got Georgia losing to Alabama, so that puts them both at 12-1.
Yep.
Michigan beats Iowa.
Okay.
They go to 1. Georgia goes to 4. Washington beats Oregon.
I just don't know why you keep putting Georgia there. That's where I'm failing here.
Because they deserve the right to defend their 2-time national championship.
And I would agree with you if Stetson Bennett, Jalen Carter, Ringo, and the crew was all coming. If they were all here this year, I would agree with you. But
they're still not 12 so in theory, in our scenario, they still would be 12-1 without that vaunted championship team.
But also with a lesser resume than some other teams.
But their resume isn't like they set it up that way. It's just that they didn't have the like if Tennessee is not as good as they used to be. You got Missouri at 10-2.
They ranked Missouri. I mean, they ranked Tennessee just so Georgia and Alabama could have that to fall back on.
That's theoretically the truth, and we've had this conversation for 18 months. I'm not going to argue with you with that. But it's a matter of, if you look at their SEC schedule, they played it. They played their whole entire SEC schedule. They didn't get games waived. They didn't have a silly loss. They just didn't make the mistake. They would lose. Literally, they would lose to a team in Alabama, because I saw something today that made me change my mind on the Texas-Alabama thing.
Let me say this real quick before I forget.
Okay.
To be fair, I keep forgetting when we have this conversation, I keep forgetting that Ole Miss is like number 11. I keep forgetting that.
They are 10-2.
Yeah, so when I keep saying Georgia's resume, I'm just forgetting that they played Ole Miss because they don't normally play Ole Miss. But go ahead.
They have an SEC resume. I can dislike the way they are ranked every year, and I can acknowledge that there is a bit of a bias to it, because I think a lot of the decisions that are made to put SEC teams in certain positions, or how they hire certain coaches, or how they get paid, or the esteem, I think is based off of reputation. I think it's based on just the allure of the school. But with that being said, I don't want to also take away from the fact that they still are 12-0, and then you lose Alabama, you're 12-1. You're losing to a team that would also be 12-1.
All right,
so it's not like so it's like you're losing now. You lose to a 12-1 team. It's not like you're losing to a surprise 12-1 Missouri team that just got hot this year. You're losing to a 12-1 Alabama team that's been a perennial 10-11 win team.
Now check it out.
Year.
Now check it out. So Michigan wins.
So Michigan beats Iowa. They're in the Final Four. Yeah.
All right. No matter who wins the Pac-12. Well, actually, I'll work through this. So Michigan wins.
As you're talking, I'm right, so I can.
Yeah. So
Michigan wins.
Michigan wins. Washington wins.
So that Michigan would be 13-0. Okay, I'm just doing all that. So we go. Washington wins.
Yep. And by the way, congrats to Washington, first 12-0 Pac-12 team since 2010. That was the Ducks. But Florida State.
They're 13-0. Florida State wins. They're 13-0.
Georgia loses to Bama.
Georgia loses to Bama. Can't get in.
So now we're going to have if Texas wins, then we're going to be back to the Bama Texas argument. Now, with that being said,
Texas beats Oklahoma State in their
right now. Let's go the other way now. So Michigan wins because I just can't. I don't know. I just can't say Michigan loses to Iowa. If they do, I'll apologize, but I just
That
can't
means
say.
they scored 9 points.
Yeah.
That means they lost 10-9. Yeah.
All right. So
You can run your way. You can run your way to 21 points if you're Michigan.
Right. So Oregon wins.
So you got Michigan winning in this new scenario, right?
Yep.
13-0.
Then you got Oregon.
And that puts Oregon. They win. They're at 12-1.
Florida State loses.
So they're non-factor in my scenario. No, they'd be okay. So they'd be.
Or they'd be 12-1, but no, they're done. They don't got their quarterback. They'd be done.
They'd be done. Yeah.
You got Texas wins.
Texas is 12-1.
And then Alabama beat Georgia. So which conference champion are you leaving out to put Georgia in?
So Alabama beats Georgia.
Yeah.
Alabama wins. They're 12-1.
Yep.
Georgia wins. Georgia loses.
They're 12-1.
They're 12-1.
Ohio State's gone because they're just 11-1. So I'm not considering
Ohio State's out at 11. They're out.
11-1. So which conference champ are you taking out to put Georgia in?
Can't take them out.
That's what I'm saying.
You can't, not out loud. You can't verbalize it out loud. So what you're gonna get is Michigan 1. Okay, you got Michigan in this second scenario that you have.
Right.
Michigan's 1.
Alabama's probably 2.
I give you Alabama 2, even though, but they would make Texas 3 just to get the rematch. And then Oregon would be number 4.
They might make Texas 4 to avoid the rematch because normally college football doesn't like rematches.
But what they would get is like they'd be able to answer the question of the Texas versus Alabama.
Is Alabama the same team?
Just
and
make them play again. Yeah. Make them play again so we can. So if they play again, and Bama's 2, Texas 3, and then Texas beats Bama, the committee can be like, we got it wrong, but they got it right on the field. But then if Alabama beats Texas, they can say, we had it right all along. We knew which team was better. So it's a win-win situation.
Right.
Yeah, but Georgia would be out. People will lobby for it, but the timing of the loss would impact because that's how it's worked every year in college football.
Yeah, that's why I just can't see a path for Georgia to get there. You know what I mean? Unless
in that scenario, Washington.
Now, what Georgia needs, if Georgia were to lose to Bama, right, they would need Texas to lose.
What the clock was it? We forgot the schedule. Like who plays when? Let me see. I'll get the championship game.
So Washington and Oregon is Friday night.
Okay, so you have the schedule? Okay.
Yeah.
So we got Washington, Oregon is Friday.
Yep. I had it, but now my phone acted dumb. Here we go.
Right.
So then let's see. Scores. It keeps pulling up the news for some reason. So then, so we know that the rest of the games are on Saturday. It just depends on what order are they in.
Yeah, what time? Yeah.
Oh, hold on. We got some news here. Okay. Oregon State promotes defensive coordinator Trent Bray to be their head coach.
Smart. Keep it in the building. He's probably talked to some recruits.
You know what I'm saying? So there you go. We got breaking news right there. Here we go.
Heard it here first on Sports Reports is ordered.
So Oregon and Washington, 8:00 Friday night.
8
and this is Eastern time, of course. Saturday, Texas and Oklahoma State at high noon.
Texas, Oklahoma State, noon.
You got Georgia and Bama at 4.
Saturday.
And then you got Michigan, Iowa, and Florida State, Louisville at 8:00.
8 p.m.
See, those games could be inverted so we could sweat a little bit.
Florida State, Louisville.
Yep.
Saturday, 8 p.m.
All right.
So in this scenario, That's legit because spots are still up for grabs at 8 p.m. No matter Washington loses to Oregon, they need Oklahoma State to beat Texas.
Yo, this Washington-Oregon spread is blowing my mind.
3.5 points. 6.5. Oregon. 5.5. 8.5. Double digits.
9.5.
To who?
For Oregon. Oregon's laying 9.5.
Man, I'm about to take that bet. Let me check my Venmo account.
All right, what you think? What you think the Georgia Bama line is?
4.5.
6.
Bama.
Georgia. Michigan and Iowa.
Oh shit. 12.5. Michigan.
23.5.
Jesus Christ.
With the over-under at 35.5.
So they got them at 23.5. So they got them beating them. What you said the over-under is what?
35.5.
You gotta beat them 31-3.
Oh, and shout
31-6.
And shout out to Nebraska and Iowa last week for covering the 25.5.
Hold on. The over-under is what?
35.5.
And the spread for Michigan is
23.5.
So 35.5 over-under. And then a 20.
30-6 to go over, I guess.
I was trying to figure out the math. So they got 30, like 30-6, 30, 31-3,
and
30.
And just for you fellow sickos out there like me, Friday night, New Mexico State and Liberty. This is where Mr. Logical says Virginia.
VA, what up? We in the building. Mountain time.
Liberty's favored by 10 over New Mexico State that just went into Jordan-Hare and beat Auburn by 3 touchdowns.
And Auburn just lost to Alabama on a Hail Mary, essentially, at the end of the game.
Then we got we got Toledo favored by 7.5 over Miami of Ohio. We got Boise State
9.5 though. The 9.5 Oregon Washington.
I know that blows my mind, especially since Washington won the first matchup. But Boise State, who fired their coach 2 weeks ago, is a 2.5 favorite over UNLV for the Mountain West Championship. Willie Fritz and his Tulane Green Wave favored by 4 over SMU. Troy favored by 6.5 over Appalachian State. And then Mr. Logical comes back to the seat. What's the spread in Texas and Oklahoma State?
Texas 7.5.
14.5. And then finally, Florida State, Louisville.
That just doesn't seem like like championship games for the spreads to be that far off. And it being that big of a I don't know. It just seems like it's a setup.
What's the
I'm gonna take a nice little parlay. I'm gonna look into it.
What's the Florida State Louisville spread?
14.5.
2.5. Florida State.
Oh, quarterback.
Yep. You know what I mean? But yeah, so like as far as Texas goes, I don't know. Oklahoma State lost to South Alabama, just like I told everybody in my preseason special. Don't worry, you'll get your chance to clown me because I'm going to do where did I get it right? Where did I get it wrong?
Get it wrong.
Yep. But I will say I got the SEC title game right. That was probably the easiest one.
I think that's the easiest one.
If I remember correctly, I got a team correct in each championship game. Like I at least got one of them correct in each championship game. It was just the second team that I messed up on. But but yeah, like, so real quick, what's the word? Ryan Day done lost 3 in a row to Michigan.
Can't fire him for that.
You know his overall record? Have you heard his record?
Ryan Day's overall record. How many seasons he's coached?
He's 63 games.
He's coached 63 games. 58-5.
56-7. And 3 of those losses are to Michigan.
Yeah, you can't fire him.
He hasn't lost to Penn State yet.
Potentially, Michigan will fall apart. Whatever these allegations are, not necessarily fall apart, but they'll fall behind the 8 ball because they won't have Harbaugh as their charismatic recruiter.
Well, their fans are, well, actually, let me get my line out. I've been working on this, so bear with me. You know what I'm saying? Ryan Day went and got counseled by the assistant principal. That's what he did.
For snitching?
No, he lost to the backup coach, to Sharon Moore. So that's where the Ohio State fans got to be mad, is that Harbaugh wasn't even on the sidelines and you couldn't win.
Listen, Harbaugh was in the meetings. He did not game.
He wasn't making the game day decision.
Man. He played for Bo Schembechler, for God's sakes. The man's not going to let Ohio State get any kind of edge. He didn't sit there quietly all week long.
He
was in funny? Text messages. He was on the Zoom calls. They were at his house. They were at Topgolf, wherever they need to have a meeting to talk about this game. There's no way on God's green earth that Jim Harbaugh was not a full-on participant in this game plan for Ohio State.
What's funny?
No way in hell.
What's funny is I was watching that game and I was thinking about one of our conversations, because Ryan Day, for some reason in that game the other day, turned into James Franklin. Like, he
Sometimes
would not
don't have it, man.
He would not go for it on a 4th down, 4th and 1 from like the 44. He's not going for it. Which surprises me, because this Michigan Ohio State thing, it's like
4th and 1 anywhere near midfield, I'm going for it.
Just don't go.
Just don't go. Like, it's just, you don't need to bring everybody in tight. Everybody in the building knows a yard is 3 feet. You don't have to bring extra offensive linemen, especially when you're in the middle of the field, because if you're at the goal line, I get it. Just use your power. It's nothing they could do. Everyone's packed at the line anyway. Might as well. But I'm like, if you have an opportunity, if you can run an inside zone handoff with one of your 220-pound running backs who's 6 feet tall already, and you get him running downhill to the line of scrimmage, and he makes contact with even a defensive lineman. If an offensive lineman is still blocking this guy, he can't hold off the offensive lineman and the running back coming downhill and stop him from getting the yard. Like, it's a rare thing. Someone gets through, then it is what it is. But if you block it well up front, but the best way to do that is to spread it out to where the safeties, linebackers, corners, they all can't be there helping.
Right.
And it's basically my 5 offensive linemen and my 220-pound running back coming downhill, RPO style, but I know I'm giving it to the running back all the way. But the RPO holds a defensive end. So now I got 4. I got my guard, center, guard, tackle on the right side, blocking 3 of their guys, because the right defensive end has to watch the quarterback. So all I need is a split second of you to hesitate, so my fucking running back can just run downhill and I get the first down. You're gonna get it every time.
It's speaking of James Franklin, he just signed an extension that will keep him in Happy Valley at least through 2031.
And it'll keep all those restaurants and bars full all week long for tailgates all day Saturday, and the community economy will still thrive.
Yep. But then, but like, you remember Dave Chappelle, like, I wonder what Ja Rule thinks about this. Well, I had that moment, like Saturday, I was just sitting around and I said, I wonder what Maurice Clarett thinks about all this. And then I went on Twitter and Maurice Clarett was like, yo, I love you, Ryan Day, but you got to go, dog.
Yeah.
This is just one of these things. Like, I remember growing up in the 90s, John Cooper, head coach of Ohio State, he went 2-10-1 against Michigan. And like every year, it felt like Ohio State was 10-1 or back then they played 11 games. So they were like 9-1 or 10-0 going into that game. And then Michigan with Tim Batuka ran for 300 yards one time. So these coaches in this series, they get all of the scrutiny. And I saw Jim Harbaugh come out today.
If you lost 10 years in a row or 10 years out of 12, okay. But 3 years when Michigan's team is going to be different next year.
Well, you got to remember, since 2000, before that started, since 2000, Michigan had only beat Ohio State like twice. So it's the changing of the guard right now, and they don't.
And they were and Michigan was firing their coaches because they were just inadequate. Holgerson, Brady Hoke, who else? They fired Carr. Because those guys were just losing to everybody every year. It wasn't like they were going like 8-4, 7-5, 5-7,
losing to Appalachian State.
It was a complete collapse. Ryan Day, what he's doing, I don't want to give him the James Franklin treatment because as far as James Franklin, it might be a situation where it's a recognition that, it's like if you are an athlete, it's like, I want to be a Division I swimmer, but all I'm getting are Division II times. And you could be a great Division II swimmer. You can get your college experience and everything about it. But Franklin might be in a position where he is not going to have the team that can beat Ohio State and Michigan consistently. Maybe you get a fluky year. Maybe you get one of those years where you just get a guy and you got a hot hand. But you have to recognize, my history dictates that I haven't built a team that can consistently compete against Ohio State and Michigan. Right. I got to win these other 9 games.
And I got another play-in update for you. The Rockets did not get in. They lost to the Mavericks just now. So, they're going to have to wait for some help to see if they can advance. You got Golden State 72, Sacramento 51. At Sacramento with 48 seconds left in the half. But, Mr. Logical, did you hear that my dreams came true? James Madison and Jacksonville State are going bowling.
I saw that. All that Michigosh and everything else just for them to get in. If they didn't have to do with that, they probably would have won the App State game.
Well, what's crazy is I don't understand, now that they're bowl eligible, I don't understand why the Sun Belt won't let them play for the title. Because Appalachian State is only in because James Madison was ineligible. But now that they're going to a bowl, why can't they play for the conference championship?
It's probably a stipulation that they signed on to. Like, we'll let you fill in. We'll let you be, you could be a groomsman, but you can't be the best man kind of situation.
Yeah, not enough teams could win 6 games. You got teams out there like the Gators or all 4 teams that Colorado beat that didn't make a bowl. And
my goodness, Colorado didn't beat anybody.
Colorado didn't get a bowl, and
it's 92 bowl games, so it's like that's a lot of teams you got to fill. Granted, 92, I'm being facetious. It's a lot of bowl games though.
Well, there is so if they choose to accept it, Minnesota will be a 5-7 team going to a bowl game because of their high APR scores, but they have to accept the bowl bid. So we'll see what happens
there. You're a coach. Do you want that? Do you want to go just for the sake of going?
No, I want it to get the extra practices and to like so this is the problem, right? You got the transfer portal. Transfer portal opens next week on Monday, right? So we already got names. Like, people are already announcing that they're going to the portal. Like, that's a thing. And we got to see if Mike Elko is going to bring Riley Leonard to Texas A&M with him. But anyway, portal opens up, right? So in a normal cycle where there is no transfer portal, I would want the extra time and practice because theoretically, depending on the nature of my roster, I got a new quarterback that's going to probably be playing next year or something along those lines. So if I can get some reps.
When was their last game? Because I give you an example of
their last game was Saturday.
My personal life as a sports parent.
Yeah, their last game was Saturday against
Wisconsin.
They lost to Wisconsin on Saturday.
few years back, 4 or 5 years ago, we had a tumultuous season, youth football. Granted, this is youth football.
Right.
We had a tough season, and we played a game on Sunday. That was our playoff game, and our kids lost. And it was multiple parents because, like I said, our sports programs are pipeline programs. Kids go from football to basketball or wrestling, and then in the spring, a lot of them play lacrosse. That was like a lot of our young football kids. That was their athletic trajectory for the season. So as soon as the game ended, normally, a couple years in a row, we had gone to championship games, and it was we won one they won one championship, they lost it next year, and then this third year just was like complete discombobulation throughout the most of the season. So at the end of the games, when they were walking off the field, I looked at my son's mom, and she looked at me. She was like, "All right, let's get ready for wrestling." It wasn't like this, like this real somber, like real connection to football because it was such a bad year. They had a good win-loss record. I think they went like 6-2, but it was like like pulling teeth. It just was like, you know what? This year needs to end. And we're glad it ended the first round of the playoffs. We left the football field. Obviously, my son and his teammates are sad, and he's in the car and he's upset because he's lost. And we drove straight to like Dick's or Modell Sporting Goods. I got him new wrestling shoes, new headgear, and a new gym bag, and got him ready for wrestling because it's like that transition happened quickly. So if you're going to try to get a 5 and 7 group of kids, and it's like Dion need offensive linemen, he need tackles, I'm gonna just go down to Colorado, and it's like, oh no, we got this bowl game. We're gonna play in the Bath and Body Works Candle Bowl.
Right.
It's on a Wednesday. It's on a Wednesday in Ohio. It's like, nah, man, I'm good. I'm
like
already transferred out.
I think it just depends. Like if you're at like a big school, like a blue blood or like a perennial team that just had a bad year, like Notre Dame or like somewhere like that, you probably turn the bowl game down. Yeah, you turn the bowl game down.
But at 5 and 7 at where Minnesota,
I think you take it.
I think you still turn it down. I think you still turn it down. I think you still turn it down because those players are they're Big Ten Division I players, especially if the transfer portal opens before you can accept it. Then I think the conversation about going to another school is more enticing than playing another game. Unless you're a senior, maybe. If this is it for you, like if this is like, yo, this is my last game, and you're one of those teams where like the seniors, like people really rallied around the seniors, then maybe. But
I'm having a tinnitus episode.
So happens when you get old. So yeah. So I say if you like I said, if it's one of those teams where the sophomores love the juniors and they will go through a brick wall for the juniors and the seniors on the team, then maybe. But if it's one of those situations where it's like you had aspirations of being 8-4, 9-3, and then you just had terrible games. The coach had poor relationship with some of the stars. He benched some guys. You just had a rough year. I don't know if you ramp it back up.
You know what's crazy?
To potentially go 5 and 8.
You know what's crazy though? Is they're 5 and 7, right? But they beat Iowa. And if you take that loss away, we're talking about Iowa as a playoff team.
Potentially. And that's like the same thing with Auburn. Auburn would have been 7 and 5. Would have won over Alabama. Alabama 7-2. I'm not writing out 3 different scenarios on the sheet of paper on a Tuesday night if Auburn doesn't spy the quarterback on 4th and 31 or 4th and goal from the 31. Not even 4th and 31. You got to get in the end zone. Like you got to get into this 10-yard rectangle, and we got 6 dudes in there. And he, like I said, you were watching it, and like we always
that was an all-time throw.
Like I was watching. Was I on my stream? Why was I behind you?
I don't know.
I think my TV. I was watching it on TV. I was watching on Paramount, but I have a Vizio TV. I wouldn't suggest it to anyone. Sometimes it gets a little flaky, and it just was like stalling. So I was getting like a 3 or 4 second stall, like where Paramount was stopping. I got to restart it. So when you said "wow," I was like, "Don't say anything. I want to see what happens for myself."
Yeah.
But yeah. So I mean, like I said, it, the the ball bounces one way, this way. They run with Marshawn Lynch. Russell Wilson has 2 Super Bowls. He's probably the MVP. Tom Brady goes to another team. If Atlanta runs the ball up the middle and kicks a field goal and goes up 11 versus being up 8, I mean, it can change the entire dynamic. It's just that sometimes it does happen to where the thing that you want to work out for you just doesn't work out. You got to adjust. 5-7, it didn't work out for you. I'm not even trying to get people back together to potentially go 5-8.
And for those of you wondering, yes, the Celtics did clinch their group by beating the Bulls by 27 points. The same
Bulls gave up,
Bulls,
man.
the Bulls that went 0-4 during group play. I said what I said. But anyway, yeah, like I don't know. Like I just think that like PJ Fleck, the type of coach that he is, he's got that Shiano in him, that grinder, all the work is never done, brick by brick, chopping wood, all that stuff. I just see him, at least considering it just from that standpoint, getting, like I said, getting some reps in, getting some practice time in, all that good stuff. But I'm hoping for the Alamo Bowl of Arizona versus Oklahoma. We'll find out on Sunday when we find out who is going to the playoffs. We'll find out who I'm going to see down in the Alamo Dome. I'm excited. Saying I don't know if Mr. Logical is going to go to the Pinstripe Bowl because it might be like 3 degrees and snowing out there.
In the Bronx?
Yeah.
Hey, man, like, it's an easy ride. Like, to take the train up, take the D train up to the Bronx. But yeah, it's gonna be cold this weekend. I'm gonna be in the city for most of this week. And it's gonna be cold then. And that New York cold, it hits a little different.
It do.
That Manhattan, that island cold. It's like somebody was talking about going to Korea because these guys are going to Korea. I was like, Korea is a lot like Jersey as far as like the temperature, but when that wind whips across, it's a different kind of cold up here. If it's not windy, you can just deal with it. A beanie, a scarf. That wind just eating your skin up. It's like you take the wind out of it, I could be outside all day.
Meanwhile, I got this woman downstairs complaining about 55 degrees.
Get her a one-way ticket to LaGuardia and tell her to hang out there for a little bit because LaGuardia is like Logan. It's like it's out on the water. Like
yeah.
You get off the plane and it's like
I actually have been to LaGuardia. Like I don't think I ever told you that. I was so scared out of my life. Like I was at home minding my business. My squadron calls me and they said, "Yo, pack your bags. You're probably leaving in 48 hours or whatever." And I'm just like, what?
Those are such dope phone calls.
Yeah, because the girl that was already over there, she got knocked up and everything, had to come back home. Big trouble. So I'm sitting up here packing up my stuff, right? Everything's, and I get my itinerary and it says I'm going to LaGuardia. I look down at the date. Now, granted, this is 2005, but I look down at the date and it says
9/11.
September 11th. Yeah. And I said, you are not flying me to New York on 9/11.
I flew in the I flew out of Germany on 9/11 one year.
Oh, I was
9/11/03.
I was so nervous. So then I get there, I get to Doha, and there's these 3 Army guys in uniform. I'm not in uniform. There's these 3 Army guys coming up to me because they see me. They're like, "Oh, he must be American." Hey, like blah blah blah. And I'm like, if y'all don't get the fuck away from me, like, and then this dude rolled up on me, right? And he told me that he was going to protect me because I look like his cousin. And I said, "Where are you from?" Now, I'm expecting this dude to say something like Morocco, just something. This man says Sri Lanka. I do not look like your Sri Lankan cousin. I can tell you that for fact. Even though 23andMe says that I got a little bit of Thai in me, that ain't the point. You know,
I got the same thing. Say the same thing for me.
So
I'm fucking tired of here.
So
20% Jamaican now. What up?
So I
St.
get
Parish.
there. So I get there, and it's 9/11. So the base is on lockdown. So I'm just stuck in the Doha airport. You know, so I don't know how to dial no phone numbers. You know, like all this kind of stuff going on. So
they
my
don't
cousin,
give you that briefing.
Yeah, my cousin hooked me up though. My cousin, you know, was teaching me how to use the phones and stuff. And so I call these people. You know, I call my people up at the base. They're like, they had to wake up the wing commander. It's like midnight. They had to wake him up to get permission to come get me. And then I'm like, oh, by the way, I got these 3 Army dudes with me too. So he comes down there and he's like telling me like, yo, I can't take them. Like I can't bring them on base, like, you know, XYZ, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And I just looked at him and I said, sir, I think, what was that? I was a senior airman at the time. This is a master sergeant. I said, sir, so you want to be answering those questions why 3 American soldiers just got murdered in the Doha airport because you didn't want to pick them up? I said, sometimes you just got to ask questions later.
Yeah, forgiveness versus permission.
Yeah, so he brought him on base and everything. We ended up getting there. But I'm telling you,
he came in a pickup truck?
Yeah. Yeah.
Always. I had the same thing. I'm like, dog, I got all these bags. Like, yeah, we got this pickup truck. I'm like,
it was like that grayish purple with the red and orange, like all over it. Yeah.
I'm like, yo, why? Like, and they couldn't even, there was so much stuff. He came in a pickup truck. He could only take 3 of us from Doha because I was going to Iraq. So we flew from Hill, so Salt Lake, Denver, Frankfurt, Riyadh, Doha. Caught the truck from Doha to Al Udeid in a C-17 from Al Udeid to Balad. We get to Balad. The chief was like, you guys ready to work? I'm like, what? He's like, well, if you guys are on day shift, your shift is just started. I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to work. I'm being here to sleep. So either I can be asleep in my room or I can be asleep here at work, but I'm not touching a single. I'm not firing up electronics when I've been flying for 36 hours.
Right.
It's like, do you ask questions? She thought, for some reason, she thought we flew from Qatar. I'm like, even if I flew from Qatar, I'm like, I'm still in transit. Like when you report like 8 hours early. We were in the terminal all night long. I'm like, you did this to get here. Were you ready to work the day you landed? Like, I mean, dead ass. We landed at like 11 o'clock. No, like 10 o'clock. They were like, yo, you guys aren't supposed to be here. You're supposed to be in Afghanistan. I'm like, I wouldn't accidentally end up in Iraq. Like, I have orders that say Iraq. They're like, well, this code says Afghanistan. I'm like, well, I'm standing in Iraq with you. So obviously, where am I supposed to be? I was a young staff. I was a wild staff sergeant. Man. I was loud. I'm like, what the hell?
So being that this is a sports podcast, do you have like a travel deployment sports thing that happened? Like something major that happened while you were traveling?
The only thing I have sports related on deployment, and it wasn't even cool. No, I got 2 things. They love to send cheerleaders, NFL cheerleaders to the desert.
Yes.
I've been on, let me say, I went to
IUD. The Commanders, the Dolphins, the Patriots, the Eagles.
The Dolphins. Oh, Qatar, 2003.
Yep.
In Qatar, and LUD, yeah. I didn't leave my tent. They were like, yo, the Dolphins cheerleaders are here. I was like, yo, the season's still going on. So these are like the B team cheerleaders. I'm not leaving my tent for that. Because it was like January. I was like, I'm not leaving my tent for this. Because I had to go to work at night. So it was like they were all like gonna be at the wagon wheel.
Yeah.
So 03. So the Dolphins. So I was in Al Dhafra 2019, the Rams Patriots Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And the Texans cheerleaders were there. And one dude was really, one guy that was sitting next to me, he was putting in work. And it was like they were making a real connection. They're supposed to mingle. She did not mingle at all. They were just locked in. And I was like, okay, Shorty really building. So I found out.
Those commanders.
They don't get paid. Those
don't get paid
cheerleaders get paid
nothing.
nothing.
Yeah.
Dirt, like $30,000, and they can't have a relationship with the players.
No, those commander cheerleaders I saw was getting commanded. You know what I mean? But anyway, but yeah, so my thing was I remember being asleep on the floor in the PAX terminal at Dover Air Force Base. And I hear everybody scream at the same time. I wake up and it was Rondé Barber picking off McNabb in the NFC Championship game. You know, I was asleep. You know what I mean? And they woke me up. By the time I woke up, he was already at like the 5-yard line. You know, I missed.
That's on your way to.
I was on the way. No, but
Okay.
unfortunately, I didn't want to go there. But my last deployment was 28-3. Like at halftime, everybody was like leaving. Like, and I was like, don't leave. And they're like, man, it's like 5 a.m. Like, I got to go to work in the morning. And I was like, yo, do not count out Tom Brady. Little did I know.
Somebody said that same thing at the party I was at. It was like
little did I know
at this party. I was like, whatever, man.
Little did I know. I was walking around them tents, banging on everybody's door. Like, y'all motherfuckers missed history. Like,
I would have gone to sleep too. I remember like I said, it was Patriots Rams. It just was boring. Like it wasn't boring. It just wasn't. It was 13-3. It wasn't much, but the cheerleaders tried to lead a halftime trivia contest with no microphone. So I had to get up and lead the trivia contest. So when I left that deployment, this pro super, he was like, yo, make sure you put that down as a bullet that you let a wing, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like,
yeah,
bet. It ended up on my APR.
Well,
all it was is like they just couldn't hear. Like I got up and I read off the questions. They had like 10 trivia questions, and I led the trivia thing after that.
Now that I think about it, our Korea deployment was the Ravens 49ers Super Bowl.
Yeah, we played
the Kaepernick
game, the power outage.
Yeah.
We did $10 Super Bowl squares, so that was fun. I didn't win a single quarter, but we made a drinking game out of it, to where you pick the team you're rooting for, and then if something happened, like if your team gave up a passing touchdown, you had to take a shot. If your team gave up a special team touchdown, you had to take a shot. But then it was like joint shots, whereas like if a special team touchdown was scored, you had to take a shot. If a touchdown over like 70 yards, it's like just random stuff like that. So when Jacoby Jones returned a touchdown, it was, if you were a San Francisco fan, you had to take a shot because your team gave up a touchdown. You had to take up a shot because your team gave up a special teams touchdown. Everybody had to take a shot because it was a special teams touchdown. And it was over like 75 yards. So on that one play, I think collectively everybody in the room took like 5 shots. But then the Koreans came and packed up the dude's TV because he has a TMO appointment. So we watched 55-inch TV. So we watched the game for the first 3 quarters on 55-inch TV. The Koreans, they packed quick. So when he came in the room, we were like, yo, pack everything else, save the TV for last. Man, they packed his room in like 12 minutes. Man, and like, we're ready for the TV.
I remember by the time that game was over, I was over in CE drinking out the dog bowl.
Where did we end up? We were in what dorms were we in? We were in the airman dorms.
I was in the condemned dorms with the mold everywhere. That's where I was.
And that's not where that's where we lived. That's not where I watched it. So we left there. I think I went to the CAC to give me a pig pie. And then went to sleep. Pig pie. Listen, pig pie it was pizza, but it had ham, bacon, sausage, bacon bits. It was just a nut. It was a bunch of pork on it, so they called it pick a pie. You go pick a pie.
Yeah.
So
I was eating those buffalo chicken pizzas.
You did buffalo chicken. I did the pig pie and the chicken teriyaki. That was literally my
Bloody Mary
meal.
And I had a Bloody Mary. You know what I'm saying? I was all gone that day. They said, "You gonna make it to work tomorrow?" I said, I might have to switch my shift.
Oh yeah, I went to work like 3:00 that morning. It was mid shift. Like we're not coming in early. I used to make ridiculous calls on our schedule to the point where it was like, yo, Rutley said it. So yeah, we're not coming in. They're like, why not? I'm like, we'll turn the station on at 3:00, but we'll be there at 3. Like, you can't do that. I'm like, yes, I can. Like, nothing's happening. No one's delivering parts during the Super Bowl. Like, we're all doing this. Like, we'll be at work at 3:00. Oh yeah. I was a great supervisor. I was a terrorist. If you were my supervision, I was a terrorist to you because I'd be right and I'd argue it and I wouldn't care how bad you got. I'm like, did it get done? They're like, yeah, but you can't do that. I'm like, why not? Explain to me what went wrong. Would you done something different? No, but you got to run it by. So I'm like, if you wouldn't have done anything different and I did it, why I got to run it by you? They're like, you know what, Sardarelli? I was like, cool. Like, can I go now? Like, y'all called me in for this. They used to hate it, but I was like, Mr. Logical, man. I used to kill him with that. They used to
have it.
But
well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope y'all enjoyed story time with the fellas. You know what I'm saying? We be back Thursday.
I'm gonna be traveling Thursday.
Okay, so I will be back on Thursday, probably previewing the conference championship games. You know, looking at some NFL stuff. You know, so 2-5 Daily will be back as well tomorrow. So you know, we'll get back into this. Mr. Logical will be back next week. You know,
Absolutely.
So safe travels and all that stuff. You know, hopefully your team doesn't get boiled this weekend. You know,
like, right.
You know, because all I know is I've made it to a point in my life. Washington cannot hurt me anymore.
Oh, the Falcons can't hurt me.
I'm like, I got all this anthrax in my body. They can't hurt me.
I've been desensitized since February 2017.
But y'all,
this is it.
Like, review, subscribe. It's
share
all
with your grandma.
Free. You know what I'm saying? Don't make me go put that throwback on that'll make a glance. You know what I'm saying? 2-5. He is Mr. Logical. We are Sports Reports as ordered.
Peace.